it's probably most appropriate that we celebrate, you know, this momentous occasion in the mist and a little bit of rain, a little bit of wind, and the clouds that, of course, dominate the Oregon coast for much of the year, because these are the conditions that the young men and women that have served at this unit over the years operate. They're at the mercy of the fickle whims of Mother Nature as they stand the watch, ensuring that their aides watch properly, protecting all of us that ply the Oregon coast. The Coast Guard has a long history here on the Oregon coast. Like all services, time drives change. And 40 years ago, the ATON Navigation Team looked at majestic lighthouses and remote aids. And today, we deal with light-emitting diodes, solar power cells, differential GPS. Oh yes, ATON navigation has changed dramatically.
Prior to ANT Coos Bay's establishment, Chet had primary responsibility for all aids in the Coos Bay and Coquille River area, and the secondary responsibility for all the outlying areas. Each boat station, with the exception of Coos Bay, had primary responsibility for the aids in their area of operation. With the establishment of the ANT team, all the aids previously maintained by Chet and the boat stations became the responsibility of ANT Coos Bay. Lighthouses, lights, ranges, dayboards, and unlighted buoys, totaling over 200 aids. Additionally, ANT Coos Bay had secondary responsibility for all lighted buoys serviced by the buoy tenders Iris and Whitebush, home port in Astoria.
I can tell you that as a trained navigator that GPS is great, but it's always very reassuring to look out there and with your own eyes see a fixed aid to navigation or buoy to help confirm your position. And it's my belief that no matter how wonderful our GPS system and future electronic aids to navigation will be, I think there will always be a place for the fixed and floating aids that our nation has, which are among the best, if not the best, in the whole world. And I can speak to you having navigated overseas in a number of countries. So, so there will be a continuing role for the Coast Guard in aids navigation work for many, many, many generations to come. Even the Adamsons in their duties, going around, if you consider the entire Coos Bay area, it was Nils and Chet later that had the entire responsibility on their own shoulders for servicing all those kerosene-fueled lights. And the example of which is the 8-day lamp that you'll see here on the table. That had enough kerosene to burn for 8 days. But generally speaking, their procedure was to go out and check them and refuel them approximately every 7 days, so that way they wouldn't run out. So if you think about the entire expanse of Coos Bay, starting from the first range down here, all the way around to the backside of the bay and up the tributary rivers, that was a lot of geography that they had to cover over a weekly period. And, by the way, I should mention, using their own boat. The government didn't supply them with a boat. So Nils had one built for himself, and then Chet had one built for himself later. And so those were the boats that they used, using a dock that they requisitioned, and that was their sum total of their operation until the ANT team came along in 1976. That today's ANT teams and buoy tender personnel are like the lighthouse keepers and the lamp lighters of yesteryear, in that they are very focused on their job, they're very dedicated to their duties, and we as the public get to enjoy a very top-notch aids navigation system unlike any in the world.
This whole event today was spurred by when I got here in July last year. I said to Josh Williams here, the XPO, I said, what's the unit history? What do we know about the past? And he said, oh, there's a scrapbook upstairs. I said, oh, okay. So I went and flipped through it, and you'll see it. It's out on the table. Wonderful scrapbook. Lots of great pictures of faces and of personalities from the past. But it was lacking any details. It was just, I saw the individuals and I saw their accolades and things, but I didn't really know anything about who they were and what they had done, where they had come from. So I started reaching out, emailed back, And at first I was thinking it was canned, like he already had it waiting for me to contact him and to send it. And I was reading this, and I'm sure Chief Williams can attest to this. I was on the other side of the wall, and the officer said, "Oh my God, you won't believe this email. You've got to read this email." He had so much family history and so much information, and then over the next 2 or 3 months, it was weekly, I would get another email full of pictures and full of all kinds of wonderful, just really rich history that had been lost. And so we've compiled that, and it was just seemed fitting that as we were reading this and putting this all together, we said, well, these Adamson boys, they really did some work. I mean, starting in 1911, and it didn't end until 1976. I mean, 2 guys did all of this stuff. It's like, we probably need to pay attention to this. So we kind of talked it over, and we thought the most fitting way would be to dedicate what it is we do now and where we operate out of, and dedicate it to Nils and Chester. And today we're formally dedicating our building, the Adamson Building, named in honor of Nils P. Adamson, Chester N. Adamson, U.S. Lighthouse Service, the Coos Bay Light Attendants, dedicated today, 2016.
And we tried not to say too much about my uncle and his one Coast Guard assistant being replaced by a whole team of federal employees. But I must say, the number of devices, the range of facilities that are now serviced by this team has grown dramatically. It's a very important operation for our nation, for our economy, and I think back for the years that my grandfather and uncle kept the harbor lights here. It was boom time on the south coast. Coos Bay was the world's largest lumber shipping port. The ships were constantly going in and out of this harbor, and the federal aids to that commerce were absolutely vital for the health and safety of those who were here.
But nonetheless, regardless of what the future brings, Coast Guard 8's Navigation Team Coos Bay will stand the watch, protecting our commerce, our citizens, and our families.